fab strategy, NFBC power players, hot and cold player analysis, and more. Zack Waxman of the Draft Champions podcast joins us next on Beat the Shift. And welcome to another episode of the Beat the Shift podcast. I am your host, Ariel Cohen, and with me as always is Ruvain Guy. What's going on, Ruvain?
Not much. How are you doing today?
Pretty good. Another rain out on a Wednesday night softball league. It's been raining all month in New York, so sad about that. The Knicks are playing as we speak. We won't give away the score. I'm going to try to DVR it a little bit and watch it after. Hopefully our Knicks can make it to the finals. How about you?
I hope so too, but I was at the Met game this past Sunday night watching Shohei Ohtani hit a leadoff home run with Dodgers fans actually all over the place next to me at Citi Field. But the Mets came out on top. It was actually a pretty good game, and it's nice to see Ohtani, once a year.
And I was at the Met game on Monday afternoon, actually, the day after, where the Mets had 2 sacrifice flies, and that was the only scoring. The other team the White Sox had 1 sacrifice fly, and they won 2-1. And it was a walk-off. And I actually got on TV on the SNY broadcast. Somebody at work was like, "Ariel, was that you? I think I saw you on TV." And yeah, I was in the second row in the outfield, on the home run fence, and there was a kid who had a sign, Pete Alonso or Brett Beatty or whatever it is. So when they were up in like the 8th inning, they showed them, and when the kid sat down because he's sort of short, the camera was right on me and my family. So fun stuff. All right, well, we've got a great show today. We're going to talk NFBC, and our guest tonight from the Draft Champions podcast. Welcome to the show, Zack Waxman. What's going on, man?
Hey, Ariel. How you doing?
We're doing great, and thanks for coming on the show. And just want to talk a little bit about your podcast to start it out. By the way, if anybody has not heard Zack's podcast, it's actually fantastic. There are a bunch of shows a week. He talks waiver wire, different things, and if you're in the mood to laugh a little bit, Zack is a really witty and funny guy. I enjoy listening to the show, and it makes me smile every time I listen. So, compliment to you, Zack.
Well, I'm glad I can make you smile, Ariel.
Thank you very much. But tell me, how did the podcast start? Like, what made you run it?
I don't even know. I guess you got to go back to the Mike Curlin days. Well, we still are in the Mike Curlin days. But me and him started one, and we just wanted to talk NFBC. And, and then I think it's just a matter of it just evolved into something that, like this beast of a thing that now is something that I do. And right now it's just like a lot of waiver wire stuff, fab previews, fab reviews. No one really cares about, like, strategy during the season. They just want to know who to pick up and stuff like that. So that's really, people just want you to tell them what to do, like who to pick up. And then you got like 4 podcasts out there with fab reviews. They're just, it's really just pointless right now, the fab reviews. So I'm just putting out a pointless podcast just to it's just an excuse to make some jokes.
Sounds good.
Absolutely. All right. Well, one thing, though, that you are known for is playing in the NFBC, but not just 1 or 2 leagues. How many leagues do you play in? How many are in this year?
Well, I can't say that publicly on a podcast that I can't delete, but a lot.
A lot.
I'll talk about it on my podcast because I always have the option to delete my podcast. This is out there, so the amount of the money, the number of leagues, you can guess.
More than two,
yeah,
right?
It's several.
Can you say more than 10?
Yeah.
Okay, more than 10, right.
More than 10.
Yeah, and I think we're in a league together. I know, we've been in leagues together, and I think even this year as well, right?
Possibly.
Yeah. I know we do some auctions, and I remember talking to you about it afterwards.
An OLAC?
Yeah, an OLAC.
Yeah, we were in an OLAC. Yeah, that doesn't surprise me.
Yeah, we do the online championship. So we used to do we were in the NFBC auction live in New York, but they really didn't run it for a couple of years. They ran it in New Jersey. We couldn't make it that weekend, so we just did a couple of online auction championships.
Yep.
And actually, we're doing pretty well. We're winning one of them, and I think we're in third place or so in the other, and
Fourth-
gaining
fourth
gradually every
Yeah.
week, right, Ruvain, right?
Yeah, I think we're in fourth place in the second one, but we're seeing an advantage of actually drafting early as opposed to drafting late. The team we drafted in February was actually doing better than the team we drafted in March.
Yeah, that's one thing that when I went to the first pitch conference in Arizona, that they were talking about that the winners of a lot of the overall contests came from drafting like in December or January, very early on. Do you find that that's true, Zach, that because it's early, you can get a little bit of an advantage because of the uncertainty?
Yeah, there's a give and take there, though, for sure. I think there's an advantage both ways. It's just a matter of how the cards fall for you. Like I know Steve Weimer won the draft champions overall with a really early draft last year, where he got Ohtani and Bobby Witt together. When Ohtani was falling to the late second round inexplicably, but I think it goes both ways. I'm sort of leaning towards drafting later is more of an advantage, especially for the draft champions leagues and stuff like that. Main events they're all in March anyways, but I think for the DCs, I think I gotta say that I've sort of changed my mind and really think that the later drafts are an advantage because a lot of you're going to get more players of your 50 players that are going to be useful. Like when you draft early, the advantage is getting the bargain on the good players. Like you can get like Robbie Ray in the 12th round or something, where he was like a 6th round pick in March. But like when you look at the whole team, yeah, you might get those bargains, but it all sort of evens out because you're going to get the Jared Jones and the Justin Steeles. Well, I guess that happened during the season, but like the Jared Jones and the McClanahans sort of offset that. But then if you look later in those DCs, I know just talking DCs, like when you're drafting in March, so many more of your players in the late rounds are going to be relevant than in like October.
Sure. And you get injuries that, you can start the first day of the season, and because you drafted so early, 5 guys on your team are injured, right? Because that's what happens. So.
But what's also interesting is drafting early, you're actually setting the ADP for everyone else. So, there is an advantage to that, but it's a disadvantage because if you like a player and you keep drafting him, like if you keep raising his auction value or his round value and you keep going up and up and up, his ADP is going to go up just intrinsically just because you're drafting them.
And I'll tell you that we did one draft that was like literally right after ATC came out that, people just didn't have ATC. I did because I didn't release it yet. And we're doing really great in that auction. And I did a DC or a 50s or one of those, and I'm leading by like 30 points. So I think that people incorporate the projections when it comes out, but it takes, 2 weeks, 3 weeks to process and then get into the ADPs. So I think there is an advantage to drafting earlier or before other information comes out. Obviously, I'm privy to ATC before anybody else.
Hey, Ariel, have you ever looked at the correlation between ADP and like your ATC rankings? Because I'd imagine it's very correlated.
Yeah. Yes. I have done that where over the years, as the years go by, the ATC ranking is more highly correlated to the ADP. What I haven't done, though, is just test how much that is from like January to March. What was it before? What was it after? But year to year, taking March every year, absolutely that's true. That it's more correlated as the years go by. People are either looking at it more, or if they're not looking at ATC, or if they're not completely using it, they're at least doing the methodology of averaging other projections, and they're getting closer to what the ATC average would be.
I think people are just more and more getting savvy to the projections. I think people are getting more intense about the game. And I think, like in the NFBC, I think more and more people are gravitating towards projections.
Absolutely true.
Yes,
Absolutely
yes.
true. It is more and more correlated every single year. And I will say, though, because I do the study every year, that the ADP does get better every year in terms of representing what happens, right? The average the ADP from like 10 years ago was very uncorrelated to what the final roto values were of the players. But as the years go by, oh boy, ADP has gotten better and better, and projections have actually gotten better and better also. It's both.
So not to rain on the parade here, but that begs the question: are the projections becoming less and less useful? Because if they're so correlated with ADP, then how much of an edge does that give you? And that's sort of like what I was pushing back on Cardi with the other day. And he's easy to just needle. And I know, like, I could needle you the same way I wouldn't needle you because you know that I'm just trying to push buttons. But
Oh yeah.
at the same time, there is some truth to it. Like the projections will not identify those breakout players. So any of the players that will exceed the projections, like your Jacob Wilsons, your Pete Crow, like you could even say anyone with an ADP past 100 that's going to be have a $20 or more earned auction value to date, like Bregman or like even Eugenio Suarez, all of those guys, Jacob Wilson, Stowers, Rice, like all those guys are going to blow past the projections. So the projections will not identify any of that. That's sort of the critique.
So I'll say this. I'll say two things to that. Number one is that projections have a hard time predicting the breakouts or the magnitude of the breakout, but projections do an exceptionally good job, especially ATC, of projecting which players will beat ADP. So if you have to say buy the player or not buy the player, meaning, here's ADP, should you buy the player or not, projections are actually very good at that. So if you're not going to go by projections, you're going to get a terrible hit rate.
Well, I was looking at that. I don't want to beat a dead horse here, and I know we got stuff to get into, but I was looking at that after I sort of identified Crow Armstrong and Jacob Wilson and Rice and Stowers, and I said, okay, well, yeah, that's true. I know that's going to be the counter argument, but let's look at the projection ranking, so the rank according to the projections versus ADP, and like for example, like just Pete Crow, like he's just the easy guy to sort of cherry pick. Projections were down on him versus ADP. So ADP was right versus projections. I guess that's one example, right? So if you were using projections, you wouldn't get Pete Crow Armstrong.
But for Pete Crow Armstrong, it's a little bit different because everyone was raising his ADP for his stolen bases. They weren't raising his ADP for the home runs, and that's where is his value now. His value is that he's actually has some power, and he's getting the stolen bases, and he's got a consistent job. When he came into starting in the beginning of the year, we weren't sure if he was going to have 100% a full-time job in center field. We didn't know that, and now that the fact that he has that, and the fact that he has extra power, that's why he's blown past the projections.
So I recall Pete Crow Armstrong projections being about par value. I do have Armstrong on two of my teams, and I know I wouldn't have picked him if they were down on him. So I think they were par value. But a guy like Bregman or Jacob Wilson, projections were high on, and so I do have shares of them. There are more examples of shares of people that I have that turn to positive than the opposite, is what I'm telling you. But the magnitude, who the hell knows? You cannot predict the magnitude of a breakout. But I don't care, right? Because as long as I buy the player, I'll enjoy all the upside. If I have Pete Crow Armstrong on my team because I bought him and I thought he was a plus EV play, it could be a plus 1 cent EV play or plus $10 EV play. I'm still realizing all the upside. So I don't really care about the projection really saying, oh my God, that guy's a breakout. I just care that it's better than ADP.
I think Ruvain hit on it pretty well there. I think to summarize it, it's the projections will not pick up on players that are going to gain a skill set. So, for example, like the power for Pete Crow,
right,
the power for Jacob Wilson, and like take another example, Naylor on the Diamondbacks. He has 9 stolen bases, and he's one of the highest. He was one of the highest, I guess, money earners so far, and ahead of any player.
But projections did say to buy Naylor yet again, and now we're all enjoying all the upside.
But why did they tell you to buy Naylor? Did they think that he was going to steal 15 bases?
No,
bases?
not at all. But for the metrics that he did, the homers and the average, the market was not seeing them as outperforming. Maybe they were juiced on another upside player or a hot player or whatever. There's different reasons for different players. It's hard for me to give you a generalization there.
Yeah, it's the market. It's the market. It's basically how the market views it. If preseason, no one's like, oh, I got to have Josh Naylor. They're like, oh, I got to have Pete Alonso, or I got to have another bigger first baseman, or otherwise I'm going cheap. Josh Naylor is one of those in between guys, the middle guys that wasn't like, okay, he's not going to steal so many bases. He's going to have this one talent where, okay, yes, he'll get for a decent average. He'll get you some power, but no one projects. You can't project someone to have 15 stolen bases if their career they don't average that amount. I mean, you just can't do that. It just happens to be that he added or he went to a different team, and because the different team is pushing something, a different philosophy, that's why he's stealing more bases.
So you play in a lot of leagues. I call it being a power player, just playing a large number of money leagues. Especially if you're in an overall contest, you're having more than one entry. Can you tell me what you think your advantages and disadvantages are for doing that versus a guy who's only having one entry or so?
Well, yeah, one thing for sure is I'm not going to be reaching on a guy, and I'm going to get relative value in these overall competitions if I have several entries. So take even the main event, draft champions. I'm not gonna push up a player even though I like him a lot. In general, there might be a player or two I will, but I'm not going to be the one setting the mins on anyone. So I'm going to be getting an extra, like I call it maybe an extra pick. Like if I really like, say, Joe Ryan, I'm not going to be pushing him in round 5. I'm going to get that, where some others might be doing that. They're going to get Joe Ryan in round 5, and they're going to miss the opportunity cost there of another player they could have got. Where I'm going to get him in round 6 or 7. But I'm also going to get different players in round
And because you're playing in so many different leagues, you don't have to push him because you'll get a share. You'll get a couple shares actually of him. That's what you're saying, right?
Yeah, I'll get 3 of, like, if I'm in a main event, I'll get 3 of 8 Joe Ryan. But if I were to be playing like I'm only in one main event, I would probably have 8 of 8.
Right.
And if you don't diversify, then if that one player bombs or gets injured or has a down year, all your teams are in trouble. I mean, when it comes when the newspaper comes Saturday morning, I'm looking at the box scores and I'm looking at them like, what am I looking for? I'm looking for how my players did. Then I look at them at the box scores for a second and I think, you know what? I have so many players. I don't know who's doing well for me. I don't know who's doing poorly. I'd rather have that. If I see that one guy, this guy's going to IL, and I have so many shares of him, like it's just painful to look at sometimes. I think it's easier, and it gives you a better chance of placing, not necessarily winning, but placing in the money, just because you're able to diversify.
I think of it. I diversify over time rather than versus leagues. So I don't really. If I'm in different contests, I don't think about it at all. So if I'm looking at my main events in March, I don't care who I've drafted in my draft champions because I'll diversify to a degree in the draft champions leagues. Like if I start with, like, if I'm doing like 30 of them, I'll start with JRAM in one league, and I'll look at my other JRAM teams, and I'm like, okay, well, I don't want to have the same first 3 picks in both of those leagues, so I'll try to diversify there. But in the grand scheme of things, I unfortunately have some players that I have a lot of this year that have not worked out. For example, I'll say this. I had over 100 shares of Joe Adell. Going into the season, I don't anymore because I've dropped a bunch of them. I had a ton of Roki Sasaki. So I'm saying that if these players, these are league-winning type players that have the skill set to really have a high variance. So if they worked out, which I don't think they are, unfortunately. I have other players that did work out, but those were 2 players that really stick out that didn't. This year is probably not going to be a huge year because, well, you never know. But like those players that's going to significantly hurt me, right? And like I had tons of shares, so that hurts. And I'm more focused on diversifying over years because I'm not entering for a dollar amount that I can't lose. So if I lose it, I'm going to come back next year, and I'm not gonna have a watered down drink. I'm gonna be very concentrated on some players that I think could really bust out and break out this year. But it is unfortunate when you have like a ton of these players and they don't work out. But I'm not so much of a player that's going to diversify across my teams, especially in different contests, but more so, come back better in 2026.
So one thing I've noticed, NFBC versus home leagues, is that the ADPs of, quote, riskier players are always pushed up higher in the NFBC with an overall contest. For example, and the example I use is Jacob deGrom. Now, if I'm playing one league, if I'm in a home league and guys who play are only playing one league, you don't want to touch Jacob deGrom because, it's a risk. It's your one league. If he busts, you just spent a lot of capital on him and goodbye. But if you're in an overall league and you're a power player and you're playing in a bunch of shares, you have shares of a bunch of teams, you might want to say, you know what, I'll take my stab at Jacob deGrom because he could be a league winner. And it's not just you; other people in the draft are going to be doing that. It's the Jacob deGrom share. So all right, I'll take him in one league, and my 19 others I won't. But if he hits, great, this will be a great league. So I find that the riskier players are pushed up, and to me, it's sort of changes the ADP a little bit, or it makes the ADP a little bit, I'm not going to say nonsensical, but it makes it a little bit rough because you're putting more credence on riskier players. Do you find any of what I'm saying true?
Yes, I do find what you're saying true because I play in other leagues as well, and you see that I see the difference in ADP. I don't just play in the NFBC. I think it has a lot to do with the players in the NFBC are better. I think you're playing for more money, so hence you'll see better players. And I think those risky quote unquote players are pushed up because in normal leagues, in like a home league, I don't think people aren't aware of how savvy the competition is, or it just might not be as savvy. So I know that I respect the opponents in the NFBC, and I know that everyone's going to be turning over every stone to look at all the data. They're going to be spending a lot of time on this. Nothing's going to get by anyone. So I'm saying, if I want Jacob deGrom, I'm going to have to take Jacob deGrom early, right? So I know that other people are going to be in tune with that. So I think it's just a matter of knowing that the competition is going to be willing to jump players.
Well, those are minus EV plays, though. They're not plus EV plays because on average those don't work out. The one time that it does work out, great, you gain. So it's a minus EV play, but because of the, I guess it's either the overall, because of the power player thing, it just pushes up the ADP, even though it's a minus EV.
But Zach, you mentioned that the NFBC players are better. It may not be that they're better. It just may mean they're more serious. When you're playing a home league, a lot of times it's just a fun thing to do. Some people are in it, some people are not in it. Some people have no idea what's going on, some people do. But when you're playing in the NFBC, people have more money invested and they're more serious about it. So they may not be better, but they may put more work into it. They mean more serious. Not necessarily better, but I think more serious. I think there's a different. It's not that it's nitpicking the words, but I think that's a better characterization.
Yeah, I think that's a fair statement for sure. I think they're going to try harder. That might have been a better way to put it.
Fair enough.
But wasn't Jacob deGrom like the number one rated player on projections? Wasn't he up there? If I recall correctly, maybe not on ATC. He was right up there. So you're saying he's negative EV, but he's like your top pitcher.
No. On a per game basis, that's true. So like if Cardi does his, best skilled pitchers, Chris Sale and deGrom will come up on top. But if you factor in playing time, where you don't project deGrom to pitch more than 125 innings or whatever it is, then nowhere near the top. It's actually a minus EV play.
How many innings did he have him projected for, deGrom?
For this year, deGrom?
Yeah.
Off the top of my head, I would say about 120, but I can look it up. ATC had projected for this
110.
Season. Okay, 110.
You had him at 110.
Yes, 110.
Right? Wow. Okay, I stand corrected. I didn't think the projections had him that low.
110, and so far he's pitched a total of 63 innings,
63.
And rest of season, according to Fangraphs, it looks like an additional maybe 99 innings, so he may get to 150 innings. So getting 150 innings instead of 110 out of Jacob deGrom, that's amazing.
Do you think that's going to happen? Or if I asked you today, Zach, right now, over under 130, what would you give for him?
Well, I would have to say over because he's currently healthy.
Yes,
that's a
I'd say over.
He has over a lot of other pitchers right now.
Yeah, it's 63 innings already. It's not just 20. It's 63 already. And
yes, it's significant. It's significant. Yeah.
Yeah. So yeah, it's there. But if you look at it again, last year he only pitched 10. The year before 30. The year before 64. So, in any one year, of course, you can jump up. But the track record of deGrom under the who the heck knows if he's healthy is a negative EV play. All right, put it this way: according to the 110 innings projection, that was a negative EV play. Put it that way. But if you projected him for 180 innings or just said highest skills, he's the number.
I swear I saw when I was looking at the auction values preseason, like he was like him and Skubal were like 1-2, and I'm even looking
not
at
from ATC if you factor in playing time.
If you play, okay.
Yeah, playing time is a big thing there. All right, but let's talk about Fab because I know you play in a lot of leagues. I'll just throw it out very blanket for you. What is just your general strategy of every week you're walking to Fab? What are you looking to do? What are you looking to accomplish?
Well, I want to, first of all, look at playing time, see how the playing time's changing, like two-start pitchers, who's playing and who's not. That's the first thing I'm looking at. I'm looking at Fangraphs. I'm looking at the lineup tracker. I'm looking at the probables grid, and I'll manually track the pitching myself, see what's going on there. Then I'm going to look at who's getting called up, are there any like a Marcelo Meyer, players like that. Are there any stashes that I need to be looking at? Players that are coming back on rehab assignment right now, looking at stuff like that. Players that are sort of increasing performance. Then I'll compile a watch list. So it'll probably be between 50 and 70 players on this watch list. And then what I'll do with the watch list, I'll divide it into two. So I'll categorize it 12-team and 15-team league. So this list will be too big for my 15-team leagues. For the 12-team leagues. So I'll have to shorten that list and sort of cater it to the 12-team leagues. So only the 12-team leagues will not have all the players imported into the waterfalls. So come Sunday, because there's so much changes between Saturday and Sunday, I sort of have to wait until Sunday to do it. I'll do my catchers if there's an injured catcher or there's another catcher coming up like an Agustin Ramirez. I'll do that on Saturday because not much is going to change, so that will just make things a little bit quicker for me on Sunday. But then I'll import. There's a feature on the NFBC where you can import all your watch list into all your leagues. So that will basically get imported in at any set value. So I'll sort of choose a number and order them so they're in a list in general of like how I rank them, and that gets imported into every league. And then I have to adjust those manually each league by seeing, okay, do I have Dylan Cruz? Do I need to replace an outfielder? Do I need to replace a pitcher? I want to make sure, first of all, that I have all my spots filled. And sometimes you may have to make tough decisions there. And then I'll look at my teams and say, are there any players on this team that are a definite drop? So a player like Andrew Vaughn, I know that I need to either drop him outright or I need to replace that position. I'll see what position. So now in certain instances, I'll need a first baseman. So I'll have strings of just first baseman. And that's really my process. It takes a while, but I've got it pretty streamlined.
Do you do like a Monday morning quarterback where you look at the FAB reports and you keep track of who's being dropped, how much money everyone went for, and stuff like that?
Yeah, pretty much. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
A very, very thorough analysis there on how you do it. One thing, I went to Arizona First Pitch Conference a couple years ago, and Steve Weimer was there, and he said, you know why I did well? You know why I won? Because I put a lot of time in. And if somebody put in as much time as I did, they'd probably win too. Do you think that success in the NFBC or just in general in fantasy leagues is really related to the time you put in?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Can I ask how much time you put in?
Yeah. I put in like for FAB.
For FAB.
Yeah, I'll put in from research. It's got to be 24 hours a week.
Wow. Some of it obviously is going to carry week to week. Obviously, you're going to have
Yeah, it's going to depend week to week, but like the Sunday is significant, and then just random stuff throughout the week, and just really, I like to start as late as possible because so much changes. So we're on Thursday night. It's almost like we're going to talk about FAB, but we'll do our best. But like so much can change between now and Sunday, and things are changing on Sunday. Like for example, last Sunday, like I import all my watch list, and then Ronnie Henriquez gets a save. So I'm like, okay, now I can't delete on the list because I'm sort of at the point of no return. So now I got to go and sort of shoehorn him in to all the leagues, and I got to look because I'm looking at my standings when I'm making the list, and now I'm like, okay, which leagues am I really needing saves? Which leagues am I missing in relievers? So then it just gets very time-consuming when you have those last-minute changes, and that happens quite frequently.
So question for you, because a guy like me, and I think Ruben too, we don't spend that much time in FAB. I mean, to be honest, I'm not home on Sunday. I'm playing baseball in the morning. My kid's playing baseball in the afternoon. I'm playing baseball in the evening. I'm home for, I don't know, an hour maybe throughout the day.
Wow.
I just don't have the time. I put in some bids on Friday. We check it, put in a little bit more on Saturday, obviously make a few changes in the hour that I have on the Sunday. So the question to you is, for somebody who is a little bit pressed on time and only spends, let's say, 3 hours a week, maybe 4 hours a week for me on FAB, what would you say is the way to divide and conquer, and what's like the biggest bang for your buck? What should I be spending the most time on to be efficient?
Well, I think you need to spend time on what your team needs. So if you need to fill the gaps, so if you have injuries, that is your first priority, I would say. So if you need to know whether or not you're going to have a hole in your outfield because you have Dylan Cruz on your team and you have, say, another injured outfielder on your team that you're stashing, right? So you need to know that you're going to have an outfield queue that's going to be at least 8 to 10 players long, and you're putting players in at the bottom of that queue that you don't even want, but they're better than nothing. That's number one, and I think it's just a matter of looking at the playing time, seeing playing time changes. You see, if you have players that are losing playing time, like we'll talk about certain players, but like look at the Angels. Is Mike Trout's back on Friday? What's going to happen there? Just looking at playing time trends, I think, is very important. Who's going to be pitching? Who's coming back from injury? So I think it's playing time is your number two. So I think number one is what holes you need to fill in your team. Then number two is what are the significant playing time trend changes, and then you're looking at certain players that that you want to that can be upgrades to your team. So say we'll talk about some fab players this week. I don't remember anyone off the top of my head right now, but look at players like Alejandro Osuna or Victor Mesa on the Marlins. I haven't looked too much into them yet. I haven't even really paid attention to what's happening. I wait until Saturday and Sunday to even look at this. But those are players that could potentially be upgrades and have the upside to be upgrades over, say, like a Jake Myers or something like that. Do I want to make that swap? What players are on rehab? Like you're looking at the Cowsers, you're looking at the Parker Meadows, you're looking at the whoever you think might be coming back in the near future.
When do you start looking at how much fab you have left, how much fab other teams in the league have left? Are you looking at that now? Are you worried about that now? Or you want to try to keep track of your fab so that you don't run out too soon? What are you doing in that situation?
Yeah, I'm always looking at how much fab I have left, and that's going to dictate how much I want to bid. So if I'm bidding on Marcelo Meyer, like I had bids on him because he's a high enough upside player. Last week I had bids on him in every league, but that would vary based on whether or not I need him. Like I'm looking at my middle infielders and corners because he's going to get corner infield eligibility. I'm going to say to myself, okay, if I'm looking at my middles and corners and utility and my worst player is like Xander Bogaerts, then yeah, my bid's going to be lower. If I have $400 left, my bid's going to be lower than if I have $600 left. I really want to cater my large bids to how much fab I have left, and I really want to make sure that I have. Ideally, I don't want to go below, like at this point, like $300 is probably the lowest I want to be. But in some cases, you just it's going to be worth it to have a player that's going to cost if you think that player is going to be a difference maker. So really, I'm not so concerned with how much fab I have left. I'll look at it like a balance sheet. I want to have assets, so I want to have like money, fab, but I also want to have players. Like they're also, I call it capital, right? So if I have $300 left and Ryan Weathers, who I bought for $200, that might be just as good for me as having $500 or $600 in fab and not having Ryan Weathers. I want to have assets. I want to accumulate assets, and when you buy the players that are going to be long-term assets, then you won't need as much fab in the future because it's harder to drop players.
Really great stuff. Really great stuff. Anything else to add about fab? I mean, the only thing I would say is that, do you allocate, over a budget for the season and say, all right, I'm going to average like $40 a week, but I'm going to have a spree of $300 for the year, and if I go over my spree, there it is, then I'm going to be lower, but at least I'll have 40 for a week, or you just play it by ear in terms of need, locally every single day?
I totally play it by ear. I'm in a lot of leagues, and the fab that I have left right now varies significantly across all the leagues.
Okay, all right.
But I think the 12 team leagues you can go a lot lower than the 15 team leagues. You need more fab later in the season in the 15s than you do in the 12s. I think you can can be at $200 left in those 15s if you've accumulated some players you think are worth taking shots on, because they're for a player to be an upgrade over what you have, it's going to be a lot more difficult. Like for example, Marcelo Meyer, he might in a lot of cases in my 12-team leagues, I don't think he was even an upgrade to my starting lineup. Whereas 15s, he definitely could be.
Right. Yes, obviously it does vary by the league size. Yes. Excellent. Well, really great stuff. This is a great strategy section. And by the way, Zach, I'm actually glad that you were asking questions back at us in the beginning. Just a great discussion. So thank you for that.
Yeah.
Let's do a couple of buy, sell, holds. But before that, we've got the Injury Gurus trivia of the week.
So for the buy-sell holds, we always talk about the hot players first. So I got a trivia question now dealing with one of the hot players that we're going to be talking about. So in May, there were 5 players who hit 9 or more home runs from May 1st until today. We're taping this on the 29th. 5 players hit 9 or more homers. Who are they?
Okay. You go first?
Yeah, go ahead. If you can try to name a couple of the players who have hit more than 9 home runs this month.
More than 9?
Yeah, there are 5 of them.
Ohtani, right?
Ohtani's number 1.
Can I go next?
He's hit 13 home runs so far this month. Yes.
Taylor Ward.
Taylor Ward has hit 9 home
I
runs.
gotta go with my boy that we've been talking about all episode, right? From the start. I kept mentioning him.
PCA's on the
gotta be
list.
him.
He's got
Yep.
9. You got 2 more players who have hit 9 or more home
All right.
runs.
I think I know the other 2. I have them on my fantasy teams. I'll go one. Big dumper Cal Raleigh.
Cal Raleigh, yes, he's had 9 home runs this month. There's one more player who actually hit his 10th home run this evening already.
Schwarber.
Yep.
That's it. Now those are the 5, and one of the guys we want to talk about is Taylor Ward. I mean, he's hit 9 home runs. You're compiling this list. I can understand Ohtani. I can understand Schwarber. Cal Raleigh's having a hot month. PCA is having a breakout. But Taylor Ward, where does he fit in here? His home run to fly ball rate is 19%. He's hitting more fly balls than ever. His K rate is the same as his career, but his walk rate is actually lower. And he's been unlucky. His BABIP is low. Is he a buy, is he a sell, or is he a hold? Because remember, last year he played 156 games. In 2022, he played 135 games. But no other season since 2018 has he played more than 100 games. So, Zach, is Taylor Ward a buy or a sell or a hold for you?
And by the way, before you answer, just to preface it, first of all, his barrel rate is 17%, which is the best of his career, by the way. But to preface it, Taylor Ward was a guy that ATC said is a buy. His price was much lower than what ATC indicated. Now, obviously, we didn't think that he was going to have 15 homers at this time. ATC only had 24 homer projection, but it was a buy. And I bought him on a zillion teams, and I'm enjoying all the upside. So, what do you think? Are we a buy, sell, or hold for Taylor Ward?
Are we in NFBC leagues where we have to hold? Or is this like a trade thing?
I mean, this is general guidance. Could be in home leagues. Could be NFBC. Just what are we doing with this player in various formats with him?
Okay, so there's it's like a stock. Like what do you treat it like a
Yeah,
stock?
stock.
So,
If you're in a
Yes.
trading league, are you attempting to trade him or are you attempting to buy him? If you're in an NFBC league, obviously you're holding him. There's nothing to do in an NFBC league, right?
okay, so how do we see his future look? I would call him a hold. I think all the metrics are there for him. I think he started off a bit slow with the batting average, but I have the note. I have made some notes here, and that's why I knew that he was one of those 9 home run players because since May 6th he has got 9 home runs. Not even May 1st. He's batting 300 over that span. All the hard hit EV barrel stuff is like on par or better than his career. And free agent in 2027 could get traded to a better scenario. He's been one of the best players in baseball. Just a little bit low on the BABIP, which I don't know. I don't know how much you can take stock into that. A lot of people a lot of these analysts try to look at the BABIP and say, oh, well, he's getting BABIP, the pitcher. But it kind of reminds me of like blaming the game script in football. Just like take the L on that. But that's a little side rant. But
Well, it is a luck metric to some degree. It is.
It's valid for sure, but I think it's there's things like batted ball metrics that matter.
Yeah, there are better metrics to look at. Yes.
Yeah. So we don't want to get too much under the hood here, Ariel. But I'd say Ward's a hold. I think he's got he started off slow too. So I think if you're going to be selling him in a trade league or whatever, I think people are going to look at his cumulative stats, and I think I think he's been better than that. So hold. He's a hold for me.
Yeah.
Or even a buy.
Yes. He's definitely not a sell. I wouldn't sell him at this point. I mean, you probably could sell him and get good value from him in a trading league, but he's a guy that, I mean, how many 20 plus home run players are out there available on the waiver wire or something like that? You're not going to get many of them. So I think he's definitely a hold. I would not sell him at this point. And if anything, you could try to buy, but is his value right now in a trade is a little higher than probably most people would want to pay.
Yeah, I mean, to me, the projection preseason that ATC gave is pretty much what I think he is. Like, he's been a little bit lucky with the homers, a little bit unlucky with the batting average. But, because he's had such a great start to the season, he's going to end up with like 32, 33 homers. Like, he's just going to finish great because he started great, but the pace for the rest of the way is what the preseason pace was, which, again, was lower than the market. So it's a hold. It's a straight hold for me here. Let's go Miguel Vargas. I went to the Mets White Sox game on Monday, and he looked really good. Off the bat, came off really well, and then he homered the next day. The month of May, he's got a 164 WRC+, batting 275 with 7 homers. Before that, in April, he sucked. 78 WRC+, 219, just 1 homer. Now, he is gaining more playing time, and he's batting third these days for the White Sox. The White Sox are not a great team, but yes, he's getting to bat third. He's cutting down his strikeouts. He's cutting down his ground balls, and his barrel rate is up. I will say, though, that if I'm looking at it as looking into it more than just the surface stuff, if you're looking at it like O-swing and Z-swing rates, they're actually stable year to year. So he's swinging just as much, but the driver, which I think is driving his sort of luckiness, if you will, is his O contact rate is up to 72, up from his career 65. So he's getting lucky, and he's actually hitting pitchers out of the zone somewhat better, which is sort of fluky. I think Miguel Vargas is a fluke. He's just having a hot month, and so he would be a sell. What about you, Zach?
Well, I really love how far under the hood you got there, Ariel. That was really impressive there. For me, the like playing in deep enough leagues where first base is just a disaster, like with Vaughn going down and just some of the players have had at first base. He got first base eligibility, I believe, yesterday or today. So that's congratulations is in order to Miguel Vargas for that. The power tool and the hit tool are starting to show up a bit, but the speed's not showing up in the MLB. So he's sort of losing that. He's gonna play on that team for sure. It's a bad team, but there's no way he's losing any playing time. So he might have like the safest role. He has like, if you're rating like playing time for across the major leagues, he's probably like a 10 out of 10 rating. Like,
and what if Vaughn gets hot in the minors and comes up again? Is that a possible threat?
It's possible, but this team is starting Josh Rojas with a 30% K rate over Vaughn. He's 30 years old, and he swings a wet noodle, and he's hitting 150. There's no way Miguel Vargas is going down to the minor leagues or losing any.
Yeah, the playing time is really instructive here. So that's a huge positive he's going to get. And he's batting third in the order, so he's not like batting eighth. Like, he's batting solid
Yeah,
third.
so I'm thinking with where I'm interested in him is mainly 15-team leagues, and what he provides is so scarce there. So he's kind of a hold in 15s, but in a 12 or something like that, he'd be a sell for me. He'd be like, okay, he's got a hot month.
Okay.
He's on a bad team. So yeah, I'll sell him off. I don't think
Good
he's really
distinction. Good distinction between formats.
Yeah.
Good.
Yeah, I would also, I'd probably sell him. I'm not interested so much in his profile. I think he's just having a hot month. I think he's trying to play his way off the White Sox, but he's got traded to the White Sox last year for Garrett for what's his name, for the reliever for the Dodgers. Yeah, so he's still under control for a couple of years, so he's going to be in that lineup, which is not that great for a long period of time. And he is what he is. You're not going to get much higher of a ceiling than what he has right now, I don't think. At least not this year, at least until the lineup gets a little bit better there. So for me, if I have him, I'm not dropping him. I'm going to hold him. I'm not selling him because I don't have, I don't know how much you're going to get really in back for him, and I don't know if I'm really buying him that much, because I think there are other options out there that are have overall metrics that are similar to his that I trust a little bit more than I do for him.
I mean, let's say he keeps this up for 2 more weeks. Does he then become a sell high?
I
think so.
I guess, but I mean, what's the trade? What are you going to get for him? That's
You're
the
going to
question.
get somebody who's underperforming and shouldn't be. Like, again, his own contact rate is just fluky. So if you look under the hood and he's just getting hits off of stuff outside the zone, that usually doesn't happen. If you're swinging
Right.
at the same rate, outside the zone and inside the zone as normal, and you're just getting a few more hits, and that's turned into a few more homers, that's not going to continue. So if this continues for another week or two, it could be the point where you sell for an underperforming shortstop or something like that.
I guess, and I guess the amount of position eligibility helps that trade as well.
I think he's pretty valuable at 15, like just for the position eligibility and the state of the union in the 15-team leagues. But it depends what you can get for him.
In a non-trading league, in a 15-team NFBC, you're going to hold him right now. There's no reason to drop him at all, obviously.
Correct.
Zach Nato, he started out unhealthy. He had, he came back late. He came back actually earlier than they expected to, and he's absolutely been on fire since he started. I mean, last year he went 23-30. He's on pace for even more than that. He is barreling the ball so much better than last year. His barrel rate doubled. His exit velocity is up 5 miles an hour. Zach Nato just looks like the real deal. I mean, is this a budding superstar? I mean, on the surface right now, and just even looking to some metrics, Zach, I'm thinking this guy is actually a buy. What's your feeling on Nato?
Well, I liked Nato late, as I thought he'd still be a good source of stolen bases, but I expected his power to be down coming off of shoulder surgery, as most players who've had wrist/shoulder surgery exhibit significantly less power the year they come back. Look at Tatis in 2023 as a recent example. But Nato looks to be the exception to the rule, however. I don't have him much. Sorry, that was just a tweet that Dave McDonald wrote. That wasn't actually me talking. That wasn't actually McDonald. That was actually just a verbatim tweet from Dave McDonald. But I do kind of like, I don't know what to say here. I had nothing to say, so I just read Dave's tweet. But Nato's a stud. I agree. He if we were redrafting today, he'd be like a 4th-round pick.
Yeah.
And he's doing exactly what he did last year. He's almost on pace for the exact same output as last year with a slightly better batting average. So there's that. And where people got him in the draft, I mean, he's a definite hold. And even for a keeper league, he's 24 years old. I think he's a buy. I mean, where he's playing in Anaheim. He's definitely going to get playing time there. If he could stay healthy, and he's 24, he is a budding star. I think he's going to make an all-star team or two. I think he's going to be the representative from the Angels possibly as the all-star guy. So I mean, him or Taylor Ward, but I think it's going to be Neto. So I definitely would buy him at this point. I definitely hold. There's no way I'm selling him at any point at this point.
I mean, the full year stats aren't even as good as they could be. I mean, if he's played all year, it could be like a 13-13 type season. I mean, this is it's close to first-round stats on a full season basis, is it not?
This was a miss, like collectively in the NFBC community that set ADP. This was an L, big L on Nato for a lot of us. Those that got him, congratulations. But I think we're such creatures of recency bias. And I don't know about you, but when I think about Nato before the season, I think to Matt McClain and see what happened. And that just lingered, and it was a busted pick the whole year. So I think people were really afraid of that. And you saw people post on Twitter that he's not gonna play for a long time, and he just beat the timeline, or expected timeline, by a lot. So
well, Nato, according to what I have here, is my market price that he was going for in 15-team league auctions was $6, and ATC had him as a $13 player. So the only question is, do you get him in an NFBC because then he's got to be on your bench for a while? We don't know how when he's going to come back, but just on pure value, even with the discounted, a month off, he was a huge buy. Actually, one of the top buys in the middle infield, according to ATC. So this was a definite miss by ADP, not by projections, though.
But if you're looking at the projections in a vacuum, but if you're actually in the trenches in an auction like me and you are, the three of us, it's so hard to buy a player like that's going to fill one of your starting spots when you're going to have to backfill in the reserve rounds someone that you either have to someone that you can put in the middle of the infield. It's not easy.
Yeah, if you don't have the IL in the NFBC, like the NFBC, then it was tougher to buy. But if you're in a home league, this to me was an easier buy. And if you're in a DC where you're just filling out an entire roster and you're going to use them, this was a big buy. I have my thing on 2 out of my 3 DC teams because
Good
of that.
for you, Ariel.
Right.
I'm just saying, like, if you're in an auction and you like all these. And I was talking to Brian Jenner about that. I don't know. Do you know Brian Jenner?
I do know
does a
him,
lot of
yeah.
he does a lot of auctions. We were having this discussion, and he was basically saying, and he looks at the valuations. He's a pretty number-driven guy as well, and he's saying like all these injured guys are all screaming buys, but it's just how many can you buy? Because if you buy like the Acuna, you got Royce Lewis, you got Nato, there's other players, including pitchers. There's a cap. There's diminishing returns to how many of these guys you can buy. So these players end up falling further than they should.
Sure.
Because
NATO was a 50% return on auction value, though, so that's huge.
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah.
Let's go on. We'll do one more hot player, Ranger Suarez. He's having a great year. I mean, he almost looks like his vintage 2021 year. His K-minus BB is up to where it is. He's been streaky in the past, so, we've seen the good years, we've seen the bad years, but I think this could be his good year. Right now, he's up to a 2.97 ERA. His Sierra is 3.58, so he hasn't been as good as advertised, but still in the very good range. By the way, if you guys are stat guys, I'll give you a question here for you. His FIP is 2.44. His XFIP is 3.42. Does anybody here know why there's a one-run difference between the two?
No, I'm not under the hood right now.
Yeah, there you go. No, but just so if people ever want to see the difference between FIP and XFIP is the homer to fly ball rate. If the FIP takes into account your own personal homer to fly ball rate, like it ignores it, but the XFIP says, you know what, put the homer to fly ball rate as league average, and then see what your ERA would be. His homer to fly ball rate right now is at 3%. That's unsustainable. And that's totally under league average, which is closer to like 15%. So that is propping up his great ERA. But there's so much that really is good. His whip is solid and so on and so forth. There's good and bad about Suarez. For you, what are you doing? Obviously, if you're in a 15-team league, NFBC, there's nothing but to play him. But what are you doing in a trading league or so?
I would probably move him. If somebody would buy, he'd be a sell for me. 9.9 swinging strike. I know he's sort of one of those guys that always like exceeding these metrics, but he's faced Cleveland, Pittsburgh, Colorado, Atlanta, and done well against them. He got lit up by Arizona. You got Painter and Abel lurking. That's got to play some sort of factor. You can't. It's not a non-factor. His upcoming matchups are Toronto, then the Cubs, which is bad. Then he's got a good one, Miami, New York Mets. Like decent because he's got Miami, then Atlanta, San Diego, San Francisco. So his schedule in the near future is average, I'd say. It's not great. The pros are he's got a good ground ball rate, and he's breaking out this new slider. And I know he's only used it limited. He's limited usage, but he's got a 34% swinging strike rate on that slider, but he's not using it a lot. So that is a little bit intriguing, but I'd say overall I'd probably try to sell him.
Okay.
I would definitely hold right now and try to sell later in the year because he's typically a pitcher who does well out of the gate and then seems to hit a wall sometime and start to slow down. Like when he had last year, he was like amazing to start the year, and then all of a sudden his ERA slowly crept up and up and up and up. So I'd probably, if I'm in a trading league, I'd try to hold on to him a little more, have him hopefully gain a little more value and try to get more out of a trade using him as a trade chip. But I don't, if I have him on my team and I'm in a trading lead, I'm going to try to not have him on my roster past like July 1st or like the first week in July, just because I want to get him off because historically we've heard of hitters who are good in the second half. He's historically a pitcher who pitches well in the first half and not so great in the second half, similar to Marcus Stroman. Marcus Stroman went for his whole career, the first half he's always really good and then he just fades toward the end. So there are some pitchers that are like that, and I think he's one of them.
Yeah, I mean, he's not doing much better than he is here, especially with the ERA. As I said, the homer to fly ball rate won't sustain, and he does pitch in a rather good hitter's park. So if you can get value for him, maybe, I've got hey, I need a hitter. Suarez, yeah, he'll solidify your pitching. Shop him around. He's definitely a guy that I would shop right now in a trading league. If you can't trade him, ride him till he hits the wall. As soon as you see him hit the wall, though, be very quick to make him a matchup play only. Like right now, the way he's going, you're playing him like every start, but at some point he might be a matchup play. Try to move him before is my advice. All right, cold players, we'll do a couple of them, and we'll see what we want to do.
Wait, we're not doing Vest?
I'm sorry?
We're not doing Vest?
We could talk about Will Vest. I put him on the sheet.
Can I say something quick about him? Because
absolutely,
because he was on the sheet. Just real quick. people say that I'd say he's a buy because people say, oh, Detroit's going to play matchups. They say Hinch, whatever. But 2024, Foley, 28 saves. 2023, Lang, 26 saves. 2022, Soto, 30 saves. The year before that, it was sort of a Soto-Fulmer switch, but the year before that, before the suspension, 2019, Roberto Osuna, 38 saves. 2017, Giles, 34 saves. The year in between that, Giles-Osuna combo with the trade. So, no, Hinch has his guy. So, and Vest, there's not much there. Vest has better metrics than Conley. I know Conley got a save because Vest was unavailable, but I'd say he's a buy. Because I think there's just a false narrative that Hinch is using matchups, and I don't think that's the case.
Is it too late to buy him? Because, I mean, to me, I bought him in pretty much every single one of my 12-team leagues in Challower in the last week or two. He's a definite buy if you can somehow get it. I mean, if he's available on the waiver wire in any format where saves are counted, you got to get him. He's got the job, as you said, that he's going to get the lion's share. If you don't believe it, he will. The Tigers are good, and they play close games. That's going to give him a lot of save opportunities. And just his ground ball rate's up, his strikeouts rate up. His walks are up a but the overall combination of strikeout to walk is way up. So it's a buy.
But the only thing I'd be concerned about is that the Tigers are a good team. They're one of the best teams in the American League. They're going to do something at the trade deadline. And what they're probably going to do is they're probably going to bolster their bullpen. And some of the names that you can think about that can possibly go out there is a Kenley Jansen type player. If a player like Kenley Jansen, pitcher like Kenley Jansen comes to the Tigers, I can't see Will Vest still closing. I mean, I see how they can, just play it as a committee and do it that way. But I don't know how if you're going to trade for Kenley Jansen or a top reliever like that, you're going to put them in the eighth inning and have Will Vest closed. I'm not certain about that. That's the only thing I'd be a little bit worried about with Will Vest.
You worried about that, Zach?
Nope, not worried about that. I think yeah, sure. You gotta have some balls here. You gotta play and buy Vest. Like you can't worry about like a one-off Kenley Jansen. And is Kenley Jansen even better than Vest? Like why would Detroit trade for Kenley Jansen?
No.
I'm just using it as an example. But getting a high leverage reliever and just that could supplant Vest as the closer.
Okay, so I'm not worried about that. Find a better example. Show me another. Who else could get traded to Detroit that would supplant Vest?
What about Ryan Finnegan?
You mean Kyle Finnegan?
I mean Kyle Finnegan with the Nationals.
He's hurt right now, but no.
Yeah, right now, but in general, who would close if those two are on the team?
Vest.
There's no incentive for Detroit to trade for him to make him the closer over Vest.
Okay.
Vest is better.
No.
Okay.
I mean, Aroldis Chapman, if that somehow happens, maybe.
No, I wouldn't say Chapman because Chapman has pitched the eighth inning before. I'm talking about a guy who's only, it's a very small market in that type, but someone who's only pitched the ninth inning and their whole career, and you don't know how to do it.
If David Bednar came over, would he unseat Vest?
I don't know.
That's close.
Maybe.
That's close.
I'm trying to think of examples. That to me is like the only
Bednar
one. Bednar
is someone that's not been good.
Well, Bednar has been getting better, and let's say he gets much better.
But...
So let's say he gets much better in 2 months from now. He's doing back what he did, and then he gets traded. I can see him unseating Vest. That I can see.
Yeah, sure. If Bednar A gets traded and B turns amazing, sure, then yeah.
Right. So there are a few examples, but I think that it's such a few thing that I just roll with Vest, and that's it.
Wait. Here's another hypothetical. Let's say the Orioles go in full sell mode, and Felix Bautista becomes available. Does he become the closer, or do you stick with Will Vest?
That's a possible one.
Sure. Yeah. I think he would definitely be the closer for Detroit, but I just think it's very unlikely that the Baltimore Orioles trade.
I'm just hypotheticals. Yeah. That's all. Okay.
Yep.
I guess your conditional probabilities are like if the person comes. I guess we can find very few examples, and the probabilities that would happen is so low that this is just probably not going to happen, right? It's Vest. All right, a couple of cold players. Let's get through them here. Christian Campbell. Now, it's really odd, and I guess, I mean, I'm not a prospect guy, but Christian Campbell is doing horrendous right now. Yet, the Red Sox keep rolling him out as the cleanup hitter. I have to imagine if this continues, they'll first drop him in the order. But eventually, he could be in danger of losing playing time, especially if the Red Sox, contend for the playoffs. Obviously, you're not dropping him in a dynasty league. You're not going to drop him this second, but Is this a buying opportunity while he's doing poorly, or is this a sell while anybody has name value of him?
Well, there are some instances where demoting a young player is not a punishment, but just a chance to lighten their load and allow them to reset and find themselves again. We may be reaching that point with Christian Campbell. That was actually a tweet from Eric Samolsky that I just stole.
Yeah.
Nice.
So this is sort of the point in the podcast where you'd say, well, I really respect him as an analyst, and he's really a sharp, good guy.
Friend of the podcast, yeah.
Yeah, exactly.
He was
Friend
on
of the
2
podcast.
weeks ago, by
Yes.
the way.
Oh, was he? Okay.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, so that was just me reading his tweet. But yeah, so moving into that's called tweeting just any random thought that enters your head. But people talk about the sunk cost fallacy. But I think this is more like people talk about that a lot now. But there's something called the disposition effect, which you probably know as an actuary. It's a tendency to sell an asset that's accumulated in value rather than resisting selling an asset that's declined in value. So I think that's really more so the case with Campbell. There's a disposition effect with him in terms of the buy-sell. But look, this is pretty objectively an elite prospect who's 2 games away from outfield eligibility, which is really important, especially in 15s that I'm finding, even 12s. They say he's going to play first base, so I don't think they're sending him down. Like, I think you're just ignoring the facts here. He's running a 219 BABIP over the last 100 plate appearances where he's struggling. He's still not even striking out over a 30% clip. Jackson Holliday, just for comparison, is hitting 258 with 2 homers and 2 steals after his 2 home run game that he had. And that after he had the 2 home run game, he was bought for over $300 in some main events. 1 2 home run game from Campbell, this could be the same thing. Like, he's clearly hurt playing through it. Like, he gets 4 left-handed pitchers coming up this week in his schedule, and he's in Yankee Stadium. He hasn't sat against a lefty all year. They're hitting him cleanup.
He's batting cleanup.
Yeah, I said they're hitting. Yeah, like you said, he's hitting it. They're hitting him cleanup. They just brought Meyer up, and Story's been arguably been worse. And finally, like, Campbell hit 167 in spring training, and he made the team still with less than 100 plate appearances in AAA. You have to be on some sort of hard drugs to think that this guy is going down to the minor leagues. So I think there's nothing but upside here right now.
So this is a pure buy.
This is a screaming buy.
This is a buy because who's going to play instead of him? David Hamilton, who's batting in the 180s. Nick Sogar. I mean, your options there are really, really, not that great. I mean, who's playing first base? He's learning a new position while he's in the major leagues and trying to bat cleanup for the Boston Red Sox. That's what he's trying to do, and that's what this 22-year-old kid is trying to do. So you're putting a lot on his plate. So this is definitely a buy because once he gets comfortable and once he gets settled into one position, some people get healthy and he settles into a position, then I think he'll take off. But I mean, he's batted 114 over the last month, I think that's the number, and that's just crazy. But listen, the Red Sox, they have an influx of young players coming. I mean, they had Marcelo Mayer come up, Christian Campbell's there, Roman Anthony will be there soon, perhaps sometime this season, and I think just having those guys together, they all came up through the system together. I think having those guys all together, it helps them band together, and I think it will give him a little more boost of confidence and help him a little bit also.
All right, Matt Mervis, who I think is probably the opposite situation, who's losing playing time. I don't know if we have to really take a lot of time to analyze it. I think Matt Mervis is even a drop in 15-team league. Do you agree?
Yeah. 37% strikeout rate. Only players that are worse are Paris and Toglia, who and you have to go down to a minimum of 130 plate appearances to look at this with Mervis because he's not qualified yet. So even ignore the 175 batting average that he has because that should be enough. I think people try to dig too deep at stuff. Like, look at Sandy Alcantara, just a side tangent. His ERA is 8.47 over 50 innings, yet people are still like digging into like the shapes of his slider. Like, relax, he sucks. So does Mervis. X batting average even worse at 154. Only players with a higher swinging strike are Paris and Gabriel Arias. Contact percentage, only worse players are Paris, Arias, and Morel. Zone contact, same thing, except Morel isn't even worse. Max EV is down 3 miles per hour from the prior years on the Cubs. Also, he's not playing. This is like before Wednesday. The Marlins had 18 of the last 19 games against righties. He sat 6 of those. So he's sitting 33% of the time against righties. Over the next 3 weeks, 7 of the 19 games are versus left-handed pitchers. So what? He's going to play 8 games over the next 3 weeks? and in those 8 games, the righties include Wheeler and Skeens. This guy is like Leonardo DiCaprio couldn't sell this guy in The Wolf of Wall Street. Like you can't sell him. He's nothing. I don't even know why you have him on this list, Ariel.
Well, here's why. Matt Mervis was on episode 101 of our podcast.
Also with Matt Mervis, when people look at the waiver wire, they look at cumulative stats and they say, "Oh, he's got 7 home runs." He hasn't hit a home run in May. Okay, his 7 home runs were in April. You add that to the fact he is an easy drop. Yeah, his ownership should be going down.
People still have him on the rosters because the cumulative stats from
exactly.
Go back
don't
2
go by
weeks
that.
ago. The cumulative stats actually look decent.
Yeah.
And if he's sitting on your waiver wire, he's got 7 homers. Okay, so there are stats on the surface that look like there's something to at least consider, but. Yeah, it's not. And again, he is a friend of the podcast. He was on our 101st episode, and we love him. But
he was actually on, yeah.
And we wish him
on
luck.
the show, yes.
And we wish him luck, yes.
And we wish him luck. And he
except
played
against the Mets.
And he played for Team Israel. So
yeah, I know he is Jewish, so you have to. He has to be a friend of the podcast. But I think people were also waiting for his first base eligibility because he was utility only in the NFBC.
Right.
So I think it was sort of like maybe that's a sunk cost fallacy. Like they put so much time, not so much money, into like waiting for him to get first base, and then once he does, he's just terrible and not playing.
Not worth it.
Yeah.
All right, now here's a guy that a fellow met here, Francisco Alvarez. I think this goes to Ruvain first. He came back from a serious injury. He has no power whatsoever. He had a home run like his first game back and nothing since. Is this a sign where he's just not healthy yet? Because he did this last year where he hit nothing, and then he got healthy in September and had like 6-7 homers. Is this where he's going to get healthy in like a month from now, and boom, there he goes back, and the Mets are just getting him reps now? And I mean, right now he's a 50-50 player. Terrence is playing half the time. Terrence has been great defensively, great offensively. So while that's going, what the hell, let Alvarez acclimate, and then hopefully he'll get back to where he is. Is that the situation?
Yeah, I 100% think that. I think if he's not 100%, he's catching at like 80 or 85% because, the options in the minors aren't that great beyond that. His walk rate is higher this year, which is good. He's swinging at less pitches outside of the zone, which is good. But his home run to fly ball rate is 6.7, which is like crazy low. That's way below average. And he's not hitting the fastball. His average on a fastball has gone down this year compared to other years. And usually, if you saw the tapes from his minors and from prior years, he crushes the fastball and he usually has problems with the off-speed pitch. So the fact that he's not hitting the fastball that well, I think it plays into the fact that he is possibly still injured. But this is definitely, I think, a buy situation because I think he probably will bounce back. The question is, when will he? In a two-catcher league, I can see buying him at this point and just you don't like carrying 3 catchers, but to have him on your bench, you never know because he can break out and have the 9 home run month like the players I mentioned before.
And I have 3 catchers now in Tout Wars. I've got Rutschman, Goodman, and Alvarez in here. But remember, Tout Wars is a head-to-head league with playoffs. So to me, this is a guy who I'm buying for the playoffs. He gets hot, all of a sudden he turns on. Great, I got him full value in the playoffs. I'll ride him as an extra guy, whatever. Goodman, by the way, also has outfield eligibility, so I can stick him in the outfield slot when he's at Coors. But to me, it really depends on the format for him. He's certainly the only place I can see where you can drop him or think about it is if you're like a shallow one-catcher league. One-catcher league, you're probably getting somebody else. You can stream, no problem. But if you're in a 2-catcher league, I think you're holding until he gets healthy. Zach, your take?
Does anyone in Tout Wars have 2 utility players?
What do you mean 2 utility?
Like, did anyone draft 2 utility only players in Tout Wars?
I mean, I certainly wouldn't on my squads. Why?
Okay. Oh, and just Jeff Zimmerman did the $2,500 auction.
Is it the requisite Jeff Zimmerman ding?
Yeah. All of Alvarez's personal.
Wait. Was that in the mixed auction?
That was in a mixed.
I was in that. I drafted. I think I'm the one who egged him on for that.
No, this is an NFBC $2,500 auction.
Oh, okay.
Mixed.
So
It is
not
mixed
in
league, not. No, this is for money. No.
Oh, okay.
If it was,
Did he give an explanation for that?
No.
you want me to ask him?
Yeah, ask him. You know what the funny thing is, I was sitting next to him in the next auction because these are all real money auctions in Vegas, he was a really good sport about it. I don't know if he still is, but because in that league he bought Ohtani and Schwarber, the first 2 picks of the league, and just like whatever.
What?
The first 2 nominations were Ohtani and Schwarber, and he bought both of them. So he's now he sat Ohtani recently.
Ohtani, maybe he was figuring for pitcher eligibility later.
No, it wasn't that. But yeah. So he actually recently sat Shohei Ohtani on his bench because Schwarber was in Coors, and it was a great move. Like, got to give Zimmerman props because he sat Ohtani and played Schwarber, and Schwarber hit a dong in Coors. Like that's like just elite level playing. The next auction, I was with him, and I was sitting right next to him, and he had, like, the previous auction, as we've repeated numerous times, he bought Schwarber and Ohtani, and, like, he's sitting one of them all the time right now. And then Schwarber comes up for a nomination. I sort of nudge him, and I'm like, yo, you can actually bid on him this time. And he sort of laughed, and he's like, okay, yeah, and he won Schwarber, which is probably working out for him nicely.
If you want, I can ask him if you want.
Sure, ask him.
Okay.
I can't. He's blocked me. I'm blocked by him, so I can't ask him. But you can ask him for me. Yeah, say Zach wants just to know about it.
Tag, you've been called out on the Beat the Ship podcast, presented by Fangraphs.
Exactly. Yeah.
Okay.
All of Alvarez's professional injuries have been hand, thumb, and wrist. So at some point, you have to worry about what this does for his future as a hitter. This sucks. That was just an Eric Samolsky tweet. I do believe that Alvarez's body has the ability to heal over time, but so I let's just scratch that as anything that would make a shred of sense. But 1 home run. He can hit homers, but that's all he's good for. He doesn't have a batted ball that went over 380 feet this entire year. His 1 homer was a cheap oppo shot off of the Lord pitcher on Washington. I don't know his first name. He has 2 hits with a launch angle over 20 degrees and an exit velocity over 90. He's only playing 2/3 of the time, and he's not getting any DH at bats. I think, in a 15, you got to hold him in an NFBC. You're not dropping him in a 15-team league unless, you had him and, a better catcher, and then, you want to upgrade to, an Agustin Ramirez or whatever. But not looking too good right now.
Yeah. Again, to me, it's format dependent.
Brad Lord of the Washington Nationals.
Lord. Okay, Interesting. All right, let's do. I guess it's one more here. Brian Bayo, who was, another one of these who started injured, and I guess I'll go to you first again, Ruvain. Is he still injured? Because his strikeouts are just meh. He's walking people. Is he even usable right now in a 15-team format and in an NFBC format? Can you even pitch him? And are you just benching him? Are you dropping him? It is a good question of what to do with him because he does have upside.
I'm benching for now. I'd actually hold on to him. Since he's come back from injury, his velocity is down. He's using his changeup less. In 8 of the starts, 2 of the games he started, he issued 5 walks, and 2 of them he gave up 3 walks. And he's only pitched 3 games that have gone at least 5 innings or more out of 8 starts. So, it's not great, but he does have the ability to turn this around. I think he's still coming back from injury. I think this is more like his late end of spring training type thing going on, and I think he does need a little bit more time to get the velocity up. Once he's able to get the velocity up, then he should be fine. But I'm worried about the velocity. If it stays where it is, then you may have a problem all season.
Zach?
Velo's down, like you noticed, like you mentioned. Swinging strike also down. But what I'm looking at is the ball percentage. It's up from 37% to 42% this year from last. He's been over 40% balls in all his starts except for 1 so far. His upcoming schedule, he gets the Yankees with the 2-start matchup next week. I guess he has the Angels too, but then the Yankees again, San Fran, Angels, Cincinnati, then he gets Colorado and Tampa Bay. So the schedule does get better. I'd start looking at the wire before in 3 weeks from now. But I can't even hold him on my bench right now. He's a drop for me, even in a 15-team league. And then maybe if somebody doesn't pick him up, I'll look at him when his schedule gets a little bit better. But with all that said, no, sell. Don't want to buy him. Don't want anything to do with him.
All right, let's go on to our waiver wire section where we give maybe a couple of potential picks for this week. Zach, anybody, and it could be in any format, any depth, maybe 1 or 2 picks that you would suggest to the audience to pick up this week.
All right. Looking at like maybe some stashes. Like, are you interested in that?
Uh, Interested in anything? Yeah.
Okay. So I picked up in a main event last week, and he's not really readily available. But if you're playing in a non-NFBC league, where I guess the whole it's a little bit more lax for what's available. Samuel Basalo. I don't know if I'm pronouncing that correctly. The catcher
I
on the
think
Orioles.
Basayo.
Basayo. Sorry, I'm very concerned about that. Thank you. He's someone that's been tearing it up in AAA, top prospect. He's just hitting the ball really well, and you see the Rushman struggles, and like there's room for him on the team right now if they want to bring him up. I think there's like people are saying, yeah, you don't want to manipulate the playing time. Like the team's not doing well this year, so might as well take a bath. But he's going to be up at some point this year. I'm pretty confident of that. And if you can get him cheap right now, I think that's a pretty smart play.
All right. Anyone else?
Caglione is the same thing.
Yeah.
And then Mizraowski on the Brewers. Those would be my three minor league guys. I'll also say another one that's not going to be helpful. Like we really want to help the community here, Ariel, but not from the NFBC. But I guess if you play if you're like a Dave McDonald and you're in a Yahoo league, you might want to do this. Like Shea Whitcomb, he had 3 bombs the other night. He's like I'm pretty confident he's going to take the Brendan Rodgers spot on that roster. Is Brendan Rodgers even on that roster? But yeah, he's a player to watch in Houston. Like that lineup is not as good as it usually is. So that would be a play. And with Hayes hurt, Jake Fraley coming off the IL, he's a play there. You're going to look at like the Laducas, the Meadows as stashes. I think it's more of a stash week this week if you're looking at the hitters. I know you have some questions on pitching later, but the obvious one is Camilo Duvall. Like he's mostly owned, but like he's the slam dunk. All the reliever analysts and pay relievers like. You're gonna want to pay for that content that Duvall's a pickup. Like that's really valuable to pay someone to tell you that, right?
Yeah. No, Duvall is a pretty obvious one. New closer, new anointed one. I mean, what is he going to go for Fab this week, and what would you pay for him?
In the main event, how owned is he in the main event? I don't want to make this into a.
We own him in one OLAC.
Yeah, I'm just wondering what his availability is, but I'd say if he is, I don't even know if he is available in a main event, but if he was, I would say he would go between $250 and $300. Even at this stage with the reduced fab available to people to spend, I'd say $250 to $300. I think in an OC, which he's probably going to be more available. I don't have the own start percentages on the tip of my fingers here, but I'd say in the OC is probably 150. 150. I think he's going to be really expensive because he's been good, and then they've just been very clear about this. They use one closer, so it's just like this is like
he's had the role before. He's not a newcomer, He's thrived there. All right, Ruvain, how about you? A couple of waiver wire picks.
Well, since we're talking closers, I'll mention Daniel Palencia for the Cubs. Ryan Presley has been a spectacular failure as a closer, and I know that because I have a lot of shares of him, or I had a lot of shares. I dropped a lot of them. Palencia is only owned in 40% of CBS leagues. Even if he doesn't close in 18 games this year, he's got 4 saves, a 1.83 ERA, a .81 WHIP, and 21 strikeouts in 20 innings. So if he's available, I think he's definitely right now the guy for the Cubs, and I think he's going to moving forward. I don't think there's anyone else. I don't think Ryan Presley is going to unseat him in that position. We were talking about multiple position eligibility when we were talking about Miguel Vargas. I'm going to bring up Cody Clemens from the Minnesota Twins. He's eligible at first, second, and outfield. He is 13% owned in CBS. He's batting .274 for the year with 5 home runs, but 4 of those home runs are in the last 2 weeks with 12 RBIs. And now he's a utility guy, but I mean, whoever gets hurt on the Twins, so you don't have to worry about, he's not going to lose any playing time. And since joining the Twins at the end of April, his batting average has gone from 143 to 274, peaking up at 291. So that's interesting. And another guy from the Twins who's actually coming back off of injury, and it's very weird because, Ariel, I know you made a board bet on this guy, Matt Wallner. He's only 30% owned in CBS. Many people dropped him. And when I mentioned before about not being able to get a 20 home run guy on the waiver guy, this may be a guy who's on a lot of waiver wires that you can get that can possibly have that 20 home run power.
All right. And I'll throw in, Miguel Vargas, if you're in a deeper league and he's available, you probably want to do it. Ryan O'Hearn is only rostered in 60% of CBS leagues. he should be universally owned. Carlos Santana, old boring veteran, 15-teamer. If he's available, you never know. Why not? Chase, I don't know how to pronounce his name. Chase Mayadroth from the White Sox. Am I pronouncing it right?
Doesn't matter.
I don't know. You were at the game. You were at the game when he played. So
I was
don't know.
at the game. He's leading off. He is doubles. He has second base, dual eligibility, second base, shortstop. Interesting. Does steal some bases. Could be a help with some of those key stats. You never know. And I'll throw out one more middle reliever, Huskar Brabazon from the Mets. At some point, you might want to play him over like a 7th starter who sucks for a week. Pitcher preview. Any pitchers you're thinking about picking up for this week or the following week, Zach?
Well, one guy that I picked up last week that he's probably still available is Gusto on the Houston Astros. He gets Pittsburgh and Cleveland, 2-start matchup next week coming up, and I think his schedule is pretty soft. I didn't look beyond that, but when I did pick him up last week, I knew that his upcoming 3 or 4 weeks is pretty favorable. And then with all the injuries in that rotation, it looks like someone that could stick with some decent metrics. My level of confidence in him is pretty shaky, but like in a 15-team league, you really sometimes don't have any better options.
All right, Ruven?
I got 2. I got, first of all, Lance McCullers. He's only 30% owned in CBS. He's a possible 2-start this week. One of the starts will be at Pittsburgh and maybe against Cleveland as well. He had 12 strikeouts in his last start, and his last 3 games, he's got a 3.14 ERA, and he's got 22 strikeouts as well because of those 12 strikeouts before. The problem is he's only had 14.1 innings, 14 and a third innings so far. So, the concern with him is if you do get him, how much length you're going to get out of him. But I mean, he did compile 12 strikeouts his last start, and he's playing for a decent team. Also, a 1-star pitcher, Miles Michaelis. He's only 27% owned in CBS. He's got 1 start against Kansas City this week, and he's a possible 2-start the following week. In his last 3 starts, he's 2-0 with a 2.81 ERA, 16 innings, 11 strikeouts, only 3 walks, which is pretty good. He's having a semi-bounce back year. Last year, he was almost unplayable. This year, he's more on the playable and a matchup type play. So he is a matchup guy. He's playing Kansas City this week and a possible 2-start next week. So you may want to think about picking him up.
Do you know who he gets next week as a 2-start?
I don't know off the top of my head, but he's pitching on Wednesday this week, so he should be 2-start.
He gets St. Louis. He gets
next week he would get Toronto, and
Milwaukee.
I don't know. Are they doing a 6-man rotation?
If he goes on Monday, they play 7 games.
Yeah, either way, he's pitching Wednesday this next week, so the following week he'll be pitching on Monday.
Okay, so he get Toronto, Milwaukee, which is not bad. So that's a decent
bad
one. Hey, do you want a gross one? A 1-star disgusting one? Quantrill against the Rockies at home. Any takers on
You
that?
have the stomach for that? You have the stomach for that? Well, the Rockies at home aren't that good, so I mean, he's
in Miami, so it's not Coors.
Oh, it's not Coors? Oh.
No.
I don't think it matters if it Coors.
No, I agree.
No.
It matters a little. It
doesn't matter.
Bit, obviously.
Doesn't matter, but no.
I mean,
no, thank you. I'll pass.
What depth are you doing that? I mean, in NL only,
Well, 15.
you're doing that.
You're not looking at a 12. You're looking at a 15-team like main event style. He's going to get picked up. People are
would you rather pick up Quantrill for that start, or would you rather put in a good middle reliever? I think the middle reliever for me.
Like how bad can it be for Quantrill?
You can give up 5 runs to the Rockies in a day. It could happen.
5 runs in 4 innings.
4 runs in 4 innings, as opposed to
Is that the
picking up,
worst it could be? Like
it could be worse.
What's ATC say?
Well,
like
ATC doesn't do start by start.
Got to get better. Like come back stronger in 2026.
All right.
I don't know. I'm just joking. I don't know. I'm gonna
go with no.
I'd roll him over like the guy that I never heard of that you talked about on the Mets, Balboa or whatever. Rocky Balboa.
Huáscar
Brazoban.
Yeah, whatever. That guy, the guy that I don't know who he is, I would take Quantrill over him.
Okay.
What would you do?
No, I'm gonna go with the middle reliever.
Yeah,
he'll get you about the same strikeouts, and he'll get you possibly a win or a save or something like that. Yeah. All right.
Yes.
I'll give mine. Lance McCullers Jr. I sort of gave up on him, but He's 2-starred at Pittsburgh, at Cleveland. Not horrific. Michael Lorenzen, I'm on the fence, but he's at St. Louis and at the White Sox. Maybe. Yusei Kikuchi, a lot of people gave up on him. He's a future 2-star pitcher. The following week he'd be at versus the Athletics and at Baltimore. That's not terrible. He does get the strikeouts still. He does limit the runs. The walks are just unbearable. But I mean, Kikuchi, that might be a decent 2-star pitcher to try. Okay. Anybody else? Anything else before we go on to injury update? All right. Ruvain, injury update. Go for it.
Okay, we'll start with Alex Bregman out in Boston. He's got as Alex Cora said, a significant strain of his right quad. He had a similar injury back in 2021 that knocked him out of 50-plus games. That's why Marcelo Mayer was called up. So hopefully he'll be back sooner rather than later. Xavier Edwards is beginning a rehab assignment and could return sooner rather than later. That's what I'm hearing. So he may be back even over this course of the weekend. Andres Jimenez also dealing with a right quad strain. He has been cleared for rehab assignment. He's going to start a rehab assignment this weekend. Nick Kurtz is on the IL with a strained left hip flexor strain. It occurred while he was running the bases. There's no timetable for his return. Logan Davidson was called up, and he's getting some playing time. Logan Gilbert is still coming back from a right elbow flexor strain. He threw a simulated game. He could return possibly mid-June. Aaron Nola, right ankle sprain. He said he'll need at least 1 or 2 rehab assignments before returning, so think also mid-June. And two guys, I hate to say this, but Ronel Blanco, he had Tommy John surgery, or he's going to have Tommy John surgery. He's out for the year. And another guy who got hurt today, I'm talking about the Braves pitcher, A.J. Smith-Shawver. As he was pitching, they had a camera on his, after he got hurt, he was on the mound, and he saw in his mouth, he said, "I heard a pop." And afterwards, Brian Snitker said that he heard a pop in his elbow, which is not a good thing. So, if you have him on your roster, you may want to think about picking up another pitcher.
I drafted A.J. Smith-Shawver in the Tommy John draft.
Well, there you go.
There you go. Then ding, ding, ding.
Yeah, it was a good pick. Nice pick, my friend.
That was a very good pick on that one, and that doesn't look good. Well, they really can't catch a break of the last 2 years with injuries, can they?
Yeah, it's been rough.
Pretty rough.
But they've always been like that, and they always seem to find ways to make it work. So
So we're doing the pitching preview. We should have been thinking ahead. Who slots in the Atlanta Braves rotation? Waldrop's been getting walloped in AAA.
Bryce Elder will stay up though, right?
Is he up now?
I mean, I think he's up now, so
he's not up right now.
Oh, but he'll solidify that rotation spot now, given that he's out.
Yeah, I mean, who else? There's really no one else there unless they go the trade route. I mean, that's what probably they're gonna end up doing for the trade deadline is get a starting pitcher.
They had a pretty good front too with Sale and Strider.
Yeah, if they can get to the playoffs, I think they'll be okay. But
All right. Well, this was a really great show, Zach. So much good strategy, so much great analysis. Really enjoyed it, and thank you so much for coming on the show. Want to just tell everybody again where we can listen to you and anything else you do.
Well, thanks for having me. I had a lot of fun, my friends, and nice to meet you, Ruvain. You just find me on the World Wide Web. You don't need to find me. You can just say hi if you want to talk to me. But you don't need to find me.
Draft Champions podcast, definitely a good listen. And you've got good guests that come on every show. I mean,
the guests are fantastic. They're better than me. Great guests. Mark Winokur. He's on.
He's great. He's great.
Everyone's raving. Every time he's on, I don't even deserve Mark. Everyone's like, he's the best. He's an awesome guest. He's smart and he's witty and he's funny. And he's a good player, so I think if you want to listen to him, you should listen to the podcast because when he's on. No offense to anyone else, but
you're very modest, Zach. Very modest, but you do a great job. And listen, we get great guests on, so the drill. Get good guests on, and you got a great show.
Exactly.
Well, there you go. All right, Ruvain, what about you? What's going on?
You can follow me on Twitter X at MLB Injury Guru, where I tweet out these injury updates as they come. I also have a weekly article with Rotoballer that comes out now every Thursday, so it's available, ready to read, and it'll mention all the players I mentioned here, as well as many more.
And I'm Ariel Cohen. You can read my stuff over at Fangraphs, over at Rotoballer. I'm on Twitter at ATCNY. Projections are updated for rest of season, that is, not daily. It's just rest of season on Fangraphs and on Yahoo Sports. All right, once again, thank you so much to Zack Waxman for coming on the show. And from all of us here at Beat the Shift, we'll see you next time.
Thanks for listening to the Beat the Shift podcast presented by Fangraphs. Follow us on Twitter at beat_shift_pod.